NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, the gang is all here. We head into Thanksgiving week here in the United States of America, unfortunately on two sad notes. Another racing series has come to an end, but we're going to give you the full rundown on that. Maybe more importantly, the sun is set on the life of one of the best ever to speak into a microphone when it comes to motorsports. We're then going to talk about Las Vegas and Formula One. That's a soap opera. Like Formula One's not used to that this year. Silly season in IndyCar rolls on. We know one full-time driver and 2 of the 6 tracks on the SRX season for 2024. We got a track that's got themselves a new logo for 2024. We got another series revealing their 2024 full schedule, not the SRX series. Haas F1 letting their drivers choose. Choose what? We'll tell you. GM lays down an edict that puts the F1 baby in a corner. We'll see whether F1 responds appropriately. We got all that and a whole lot more coming up on this week's edition of CRN Going Green next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
This is Vernon Thomas, gentlemen.
Tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Good morning indeed. I'm Steve West. We got Matt Nicholson here, producer John Myers in the building as well as we gear up for this particular show. A lot of good stuff to talk about, and unfortunately some sad stuff, but let's start where we always do with a race recap, where only one race happened last weekend amongst those series we cover. It was the 2023 season finale for the National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA. Last event in the Camping World Drag Racing Series before they change. Don't forget, next year they become the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. Top Fuel, likely the most dramatic of the four divisions, came down to the finals, pairing off title hopefuls Leah Pruitt versus Doug Kalitta. Kalitta getting the advantage off the light. Quicker reaction time. It was all over. Pruitt could not recover. Kalitta claims the first win of the season and the season title with a 3.673 ET, 334.98 miles per hour. That's his first Top Fuel title of his career.
Good for him.
For a name like that,
Yeah.
That's a little surprising.
Especially Doug, yeah.
Yeah, because we would have thought
Yeah.
he had already had it by now. And it eliminated the opportunity for Tony Stewart Racing to go 2 for 2 in effectively year number 1.
Right.
Because Funny Car's title was actually decided before the finals. You had underdogs Tim Wilkerson and Chad Green who made their way through the bracket to get to the finals. Green takes advantage of Wilkerson being asleep at the light, cruises to a hole shot win for those who are new to the show or to NHRA. All that means is that Wilkerson actually was faster line to line, but because of his slow reaction time, he was doomed to lose it. Green pulled a 3.916 ET at 328.74 miles per hour to get the win. Matt Hagan, though, was already declared the champion because of a points situation. You have X amount of points that are available and doled out as you go through the different rounds all the way up to the finals. With Chad Green and Tim Wilkerson going to the finals, nobody could catch Matt Hagan.
Nope.
Matt Hartford and Aaron Stanfield paired off in the Pro Stock Car Finals. Stanfield a touch quicker on the reaction and paid off with another hole shot win for him. He ran a 6.534 ET at 208.91 miles per hour. And let's face it, Pro Stock Motorcycles title was claimed officially in the second to last race of the season by Gage Herrera. But, well, Herrera wasn't done. He made it to the finals of the season finale where he took on his teammate Eddie Krawick. Herrera quicker off the line. Quicker to the finish line, 5.607 ET at 201.46 miles per hour. I don't know what in the world they've done with that motorcycle, but that thing is ridiculous.
Moving.
Good night almighty.
She's moving for sure.
No doubt. Wonder what changes are going to be made for next year when it comes to those teams trying to unseat him. So here's your 2023 final standings. We start in Top Fuel. Doug Kalitta, first-time champion, beats Steve Torrance by 48 points. Leah Pruitt by 57. Shows you how much the final round means when it comes to points. Justin Ashley finishes fourth, 136 down, 184 back. Mike Salina, your rest of your top 10, 6 through 10. Antron Brown, Brittany Force, Austin Prock, Tony Schumacher, Josh Hart. As noted, Matt Hagan didn't make the Funny Car Finals, but when neither Robert Height nor Bob Taska III didn't either, he claimed that division's title. Height 12 back of Hagan at the end. Taska 17 behind in the tightest of the four divisions. Fourth, Ron Capps, 175 out. So 1, 2, and 3 tight, and then fourth needs binoculars. Chad Green finishes 183 back in fifth. Rest of your top 10, Tim Wilkerson, John Force, J.R. Todd, Cruz Pedregon, and Alex Laughlin. Now, like Hagan, Pro Stock Car was decided before the final round. Erica Enders ended up being the title winner. That's the 6th time she has claimed the Pro Stock Car Division title. She bested Greg Anderson in the final points by 104, Matt Hartford by 131, Aaron Stanfield 156 down, and Troy Coughlin 245 back. And that's just the top 5. 6 through 10, Dallas Glenn, Kyle Koretsky, Derek Kramer, Bo Butner III, and Christian Quadra. Now, if you think that was a big spread, let me present to you Pro Stock Motorcycle.
Yeah.
As noted, Gage Herrera came into the season finale, the event itself, as the Pro Stock Motorcycle Division winner already, but his win in the season finale made the win. And the gap from him to second place points finisher Eddie Krawick, 214 points. Third place is Hector Arana Jr., 334 back. Fourth place, Matt Smith, 407 down. And then you got Gianna Evaristo in fifth place, 519 down. To say that Gage Herrera had a fairly easy time in the playoffs is an understatement.
Very.
Then there's me at 101st place.
Yeah, we appreciate your one entry. Steve Johnson finished 6th for the Birmingham native. Mark Ingwerson 7th. Angie Smith, Chase Van Sant, we'll talk about him later. Kelly Klontz, talk about her later as well, filling out the top 10. This weekend, only one of the series that we cover on a regular basis is still in action. They are, as Formula One comes back into the United States for the last of 3 races this season, ready to go with the Heineken Silver Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Or are we sure it's not the Heineken Silver Las Vegas Circus?
That could be true, too. Street course race using a big portion of the Las Vegas Strip, straightaway of 1.3 miles. He's already seen some of the video. They've got 8 gears in that thing, and they'll use all 8.
They hit 8th gear on the longest stretch pretty quick.
In the end, it's a 17-turn, 3.72 mile long course. It'll go in front of well-known casinos like Bellagio, Caesars, Venetian, and then go around and, go around that new big globe thing that they're talking about, which, yeah. Which, by the way,
I know somebody that has been there.
Yeah.
It said the inside of it is very well set up in an amphitheater style setting.
I can see that.
But the outside is absolutely ridiculous.
Because of where it sits, being inside the track, they have stated it can't use any colors that you would usually have when it comes to flags, because it might distract the driver. So you can't have blue, can't have yellow, can't have red. So they can throw up anything they want as long as the colors don't have blue, yellow, and red. So I guess our logo's not going to go up there.
Well, it's too late because at 4:12 a.m. this morning, F1 shared on their social media an image on the sphere of, and I quote, SpongeBob and Squidward.
It's a lot of yellow there, boys.
Yeah.
But anyway, the race is going to go on ESPN. Late start for the United States, technically Sunday morning Eastern time, 1 a.m., midnight Central time. That is for Vegas, a 10 p.m. start time. It is mainly to accommodate European television audiences more than the U.S., obviously, but there's also this situation, shift change at the casinos. They took that into effect as well. Most shift changes for the morning time started about 4 a.m., so they needed to make sure that they were in the middle of the overnight shift so that they didn't mess up the people trying to get to said casinos like Bellagio, Caesars, Venetian, and so forth.
Yeah, and when we get to the F1 portion of our fine show here, there's something
we have things to talk about.
Yeah, I seen something late last night after I got home from the friendly confines of Neville Arena in Auburn, Alabama, that will literally... If F1 has their way and they do the date change, yeah, let's just say Las Vegas will be an undesirable city to go to.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we're going to turn our attention to some sad news here as we open up the show in the news category, where we got word that Hall of Fame announcer Ken Squire, half the broadcasting pair that the NASCAR Hall of Fame's Squire Hall Award is named after, went into hospice care due to several healthcare challenges that he'd been dealing with the past few years. Early this week, his daughter updated the public on his status. Ashley Jane Squire said in a statement on Tuesday, quote, "An update on our passionate and vibrant father, Ken Squire. Dad is now in hospice care, resting peacefully and surrounded by the love of friends, family, and his dog. Tomorrow, we hope to move him from the hospital to his home nestled in his mountains of central Vermont. After such a big and bold adventures, it seems inconceivable that one tiny intestinal blockage could fell him, but such is life. Our family is deeply grateful for so many of you who are praying for peace for Dad and comfort for us." Again, that was early in the week. Unfortunately, Thursday morning, just after 4 a.m., the Motor Racing Network's Dave Moody, who calls himself a disciple of Ken Squire, reported that he had passed away late that evening, the Wednesday evening, with his family nearby. NASCAR chairman and CEO Jim France, released a statement reading, quote, "Though he never sat behind the wheel of a stock car, Ken Squire contributed to the growth of NASCAR as much as any competitor. Ken was a superb storyteller, and his unmistakable voice is the soundtrack to many of NASCAR's greatest moments. His calls on TV and radio brought fans closer to the sport, and for that matter, he was a fan favorite. Ken knew no strangers. He'll be missed by all. On behalf of the France family and all of NASCAR, I offer my condolences to the family and friends of Ken Squire." The picture you see on CRN Live on YouTube right now comes from YouTube. He was born Kenley Dean Squire in Waterbury, Vermont. He was born into broadcasting as his father owned and operated a local AM radio station, WDEV. Still in existence. Same call letters, same frequency. That's where Ken started doing on-air work at the ripe old age of 12. At 14, he was asked to call a local stock car race from the back of a logging truck at a small local dirt track. He would go on to become track announcer at tracks like Mallett's Bay, Northeastern Speedway, and Monadnock before building, owning, and operating Thunder Road Speed Bowl in Barry, Vermont, up until he sold it in early 2017. He was also one of a group of 6 who founded, and he was the track announcer at Catamount Speedway in Vermont. got the attention of NASCAR founder and chairman Big Bill France, who tasked Squire with starting a radio network to broadcast live NASCAR races to help build the sport. That network turned into the Motor Racing Network. He announced races for that network for many years into the 1970s. But he was also asked to join ABC for the first live so-called flag-to-flag coverage of a NASCAR race. It was the Greenville 200, aired on Wide World of Sports 1971. We say so-called because, well, they would go from this sport to that sport to the other sport. It's not like they just concentrated on the Greenville 200. 1972, he flipped over to CBS, started doing work for them, began to work on his superiors to do an actual live broadcast of a full race. Wore them down with plans to do their first ever one in 1979. That race, the now famed Daytona 500 race, where a whole lot of things conspired to make it a success. First of all, back then, the National Football League, they were done. They played their Super Bowl in mid-January back in the 70s. Remember that, kids? Ask your parents. Well, maybe your grandparents. Neither the NHL nor the NBA were well-known television draws. There was no Magic Johnson. There was no Larry Bird. There certainly was no Michael Jordan in the NBA, and Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and all those guys from the NHL still had a ways to go. So there was really no competition there in the sporting world. Secondly, a massive snowstorm socked in the eastern portion of the country, which left that portion of the country little to do but sit at the house and channel surf. Of course, the fact that the race was highly competitive didn't hurt. Donnie Allison, Cale Yarborough battling side by side over the final few laps, leading to a last lap crash that took both of them out. That allowed the King, Richard Petty, to go on and claim his seventh and final Daytona 500 win, just beating out Darrell Waltrip for it. Meantime, the camera began to search out Allison and Yarborough and caught him when Donnie was joined by his brother Bobby. They got into a fight, which led Ken Squire to saying the famed four words, "And there's a fight," in his very understated manner. Mm-hmm. Squire continued to be the lead announcer for CBS until 1997 when he turned the things over to Mike Joy, but he remained with TBS and TNT through 1999 before he turned that microphone over to a guy who you've also probably heard of, Alan Bestwick. When Fox took over the rights for the first half of NASCAR Cup Series season in 2001, Squire joined them for pre- and post-race coverage and assisted in the transition, but as it turned out, he also helped in the coverage of a big news event on that day, the final race of the legend, Dale Earnhardt. Squire would appear here and there for some race coverage, including the final NASCAR and TNT race that happened July 2014 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where he was tasked with closing out their time in NASCAR coverage. I'd try and quote it to you, but I couldn't do it justice. In 2015 and again in 2017, NBC lured Squire back, and this was perfect, teaming in with his old booth mate Ned Jarrett as they called the first couple of Darlington throwback races. It was just perfect. They even got dressed up in the big, wide-collared, really loud 1970s shirts.
Yeah.
Squire was best noted for his calls in motorsports, but it also included not just NASCAR, but Indycar, Formula One, back when CBS covered that series in the United States in the 1980s. But he also called sports like ice skating, golf, and tennis. When CBS got the 1992 Summer and 1994 Winter Olympics, Squire was central to their coverage as well. He would appear in several movies, either as himself or some version of himself as an announcer, movies like Cannonball Run, Stroker Ace, narrating several NASCAR-related documentaries. As we noted, he co-founded MRN, owned and operated Radio Vermont after his father passed away. He finally sold them in 2017, but they still exist today, and they still aired all the way up until he could not physically do it anymore, a Saturday morning show, which I'm sure this morning will be remembering Ken Squire quite well. Mm-hmm. Noted he founded a couple of racetracks, was considered a mentor by many announcers on MRN, PRN, CBS, ABC, ESPN, Fox, you name it. They probably knew of, if not straight out knew, Ken Squire. He was inducted into several halls of fame, the New England Auto Racers, Vermont's Broadcasters, Vermont Sports, NASCAR Hall of Fame, Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, and, of course, the NASCAR Hall of Fame named their award of media excellence after him and his MRN cohort, Barney Hall, the Squire Hall Award. Unfortunately, began to suffer from health problems over the last couple of years. About 2 weeks ago, went into the hospital, but again, intestinal blockage, as you heard earlier on from the statement from his daughter. They just couldn't figure out what was going on and how to fix it, so knowing things weren't good, he requested to go home under hospice care, was released Monday, passed away Wednesday night. Ken Squire, 88 years old. I've said this on a number of occasions when it comes to how I got interested in doing this, broadcasting. 10, 11, 12 years old, I would sit around on a Sunday morning, have my little radio on, and have a notebook that Mom purportedly had bought for me to do schoolwork in. And what I was doing was I was writing down every single number from 40 to number 1 of every single week of Casey Kasem's American Top 40. And about the age of 11, as I was getting ready to turn 12 over that summer, a light turned on and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do what Casey Kasem does? And that prompted me to start thinking about getting into the radio business. And then I watched that 1979 Daytona 500. And I listened. I didn't just hear him. I listened to Ken Squire as he made that call. And got to thinking, wouldn't it be cool to do what Ken Squire does? Somehow I weaseled my way into radio, and I've been in it ever since. I don't know how. I mean, from walking up to the front desk of a radio station in downtown Birmingham that's now an all-sports radio station. Back then it was called I-95. I asked about an internship, and they said, what department? And I went, huh? I was that clueless. I had no idea that there were several departments in a radio station. So she had to list them for me. Well, there's programming, there's news, there's promotions, there's sales. Well, at least I was smart enough to understand the word programming. And I was crazy enough on my little application for an internship to look down at the very last thing that asked a question, do you have any relatives in show business? Actually, I did, that I knew of. My grandmother had told me about some fairly distant cousin of mine who was one of those guys that just happens to appear on the scene, never has any lines, but he's always walking back and forth in the background of a TV show. That TV show was The Love Boat. Because I was willing to put that down on that little application, I got the internship my senior year of high school. Went on to broadcasting school, learned a whole lot there, somehow found a job in radio in mid-1987, and, well, pretty much been in radio ever since. But over that course of time, not only did I listen to Casey Kasem, I watched and I listened to Ken Squire, and I listened to Barney Hall, Joe Moore, and Alan Bestwick, and, well, pretty much anybody and everybody who ever did any calls when it came to motorsports. Thinking, how cool would it be? I never had the chance to meet Ken Squire in person, but somehow I feel a kindred spirit to him. Because I've been lucky enough to do what I love to do for going on 40 years now. 36 plus, to be exact, as we are in November of 2023. Because not only am I on the radio, witness what we're doing right now with this show, CRN, but I work full-time at a radio station in Birmingham. But I'm also able to do a little race stuff myself. I get to do PA announcing at Talladega. Used to be able to do it at the late lamented Birmingham International Raceway. I've done it at Darlington and Richmond, Homestead, Miami. Would love to have other opportunities. I've done it at Nashville Fairgrounds for the Superstar Racing experience. The fact that I get to do this, the fact that that man, Ken Squire, laid that groundwork for not only me, but hundreds of other people. The Motor Racing Network, the Performance Racing Network, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Network, and all the TV networks that have or have ever covered NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, or any other racing series. We all owe a debt of gratitude to one Ken Squire. Rest in peace, Ken Squire. Your voice will be missed, but it will never, ever be forgotten.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, despite the fact that our hearts are heavy this morning because of the loss of Ken Squire, let's see if we can lighten things up a little bit here for the rest of the show. Well, until we get to Formula One. We noted last week that the National Motorsports Press Association has opened up the voting for the most popular driver or fan vote award. It is open for Cup and Xfinity and trucks. Well, here's your friendly reminder that that's there. But we got another fan vote option now available, and this one is for the 2023 Fan Choice Awards, supercharged by Worldwide Express, because, you know, we have a sponsorship opportunity. NASCAR will figure it out. Voting opened up on Tuesday. It'll go through Monday at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. So you got a couple of days to choose from several categories and vote on NASCAR.com/fanvote. You can select best race, best rivalry, best paint scheme, your person of the year, your best driver on social media, your best celebration or burnout, best scanner moment, most improved, crew chief of the year, and your most dominant performance.
Huh.
All right, then.
That'll be a tough one.
We'll keep an eye out on that and see what happens. Next up, NASCAR's ARCA Menard Series. They announced their full 20-race slate for 2024. We mentioned it here because it's owned by NASCAR, and no disrespect to the ARCA people. Chi-Town Mark. We don't generally cover the ARCA Menard Series, but this seems important, so we'll talk about it. Like the top three divisions, they're going to get things rolling at Daytona on Saturday, February the 17th, and then they head out west to Phoenix. But after that, they're going to wait until April to race again, and that'll be at our little playground at Talladega. Dover will happen the next weekend, then on to Kansas, Charlotte, Iowa, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and Berlin Raceway. That'll take them through June. Then they go to Indianapolis Raceway Park, and then some tracks that we're not quite as familiar with if basically you only follow NASCAR. Elko Speedway, Michigan's in there. Illinois State Fairgrounds, Milwaukee Mile, that'll get us through August. And the last 5 races will all happen in rapid fire. And what do I mean by that? I mean I'm talking about 5 consecutive weeks of action, starting with DuQuoin State Fairgrounds, Watkins Glen, Bristol, Kansas, and the season finale at Toledo, October the 5th. I'll already look this up, by the way. All the races for this coming season will appear either on Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2. No more MAV TV.
And there's one substantially large puzzle piece missing out of the ARCA schedule that has been a staple. Pocono.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a sign of what may be to come, but
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm kind of wondering what this will mean in the long term, because we used to get 2 races every year for NASCAR Cup Series specifically at Pocono. Now we're down to 1. Mm-hmm. You know, and the racing can be fairly boring at Pocono. I'll admit it. But I like Pocono just because it's so radically different from every other track out there. I mean, let's face it, it's the only one that's shaped like a triangle. And for that, it's very unique. All three corners are vastly different from each other. I think it's a place that we need to go, but at some point in time, I think we kind of need to figure out how are we going to get the racing to be better there.
Yeah, especially with ARCA, the way their downforce package is and the way the engine package is, it's so hard to pass. Even at a super speedway, it's so hard to pass.
Yeah, I got you.
So they've got some work to do for sure.
That they do. We got several pictures here. I put John to work this week, so thank you very much, John, ahead of time for getting all these pictures set and ready to go. Second one up is where a team has announced that his Xfinity Series crew chief is set to move up to Cup Series. Now, when Noah Gragson asked for and quickly got his release from Legacy Motor Club, we already knew that the team was switching from Chevrolet to Toyota for 2024. And, well, as soon as they announced both of those things, we realized here on this show real quick that was basically just the avenue to get John Hunter Nemechek back up into the Cup Series. And, indeed, he was announced to the 42 car. The team announced that his Xfinity Series crew chief, Ben Bayshore, set to move up with him to the Cup Series and remain his crew chief. This marks Bayshore's return to calling shots in the Cup Series after a one-year break, while Nemechek returns to the Cup Series for first time as a full-time driver since 2020. See the pair right now on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Tireball Sports. That's their Xfinity look right there. It'll change a little bit, obviously, as they go to Legacy MC. Obviously, you want to keep this connection going well. They have wins under their belt from this past year, even though it did not translate into the championship like they were hoping for.
Sure.
But to be able to keep that, putting you in the driver's role, having built this relationship with Ben Bayshore over the year, what does this do for you as the driver to know that you still have that same voice in your ear as you move it up to the Cup Series?
It keeps your confidence in knowing who's making your calls. When you make your call, when you give your feedback to your crew chief, who's making your calls, it gives you that confidence that you know things are going to be done like it needs to be. But with Ben Bayshore being out of Cup for a couple years now, and him not being as hands-on with this newer car that he's used to than everybody else, there could be a little bit of a transition there. See his initial start with Noah Gragson and Luke Lambert.
Sure.
They dominated Xfinity and then struggled with Cup with his new car.
Yeah.
Could this happen with them? Could it not happen with them? I mean, time will tell.
But these two have a communication system worked out to where they know each other.
Sure.
So at least he got that going. Now he can just work on getting him and the pit crew used to the car.
Right.
There you go. Bayshore, NASCAR veteran, moved up through the ranks of what is now RFK Racing up to car chief and engineer before he moved to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2014. In many of the same roles before he filled in as Kyle Busch's crew chief in his championship year 2019. He became Busch's full-time crew chief in 2021, but when Busch moved over to Richard Childress Racing for this 2023 year, he dropped down to the Xfinity Series paired with Nemechek. 4 Cup wins, all with Busch to his credit, and of course, a number of Xfinity Series wins and, well, the championship for appearance at Phoenix just a couple of weeks ago, but wasn't to be. Meanwhile, we've talked about how over at the 4 car at Stewart-Haas Racing for 2024, Josh Berry is going to take over that car. But it actually isn't the only connection with who is now the previous driver of that car. You can see the two of them with the, left shoulder of Tony Stewart there in the picture on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of WLOS TV. Berry has now signed to drive for Kevin Harvick in his late model because apparently Kevin Harvick Incorporated, KHI, which was once a race team, which really turned into more of a PR operation, is now kicking back up the race team aspect of it, at least for super late models. He's getting into 3 marquee late model stock car events and will have his future Cup Series crew chief Rodney Childers as his crew chief for those 3 events to allow the pair to work on their communications. They've already raced at Hickory Motor Speedway, this weekend at Florence Motor Speedway, and is it next weekend or the weekend after at Southern National Motorsports Park in the Carolinas? Basically rapid fire.
Southern National's Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
Next week, yeah.
All of these tracks, Barry has wins at while he drove for Junior Motorsports in that division's late model series. Again, Hickory was last Saturday, and if I read my own stuff, I would have realized that it'll wrap next weekend with the Thanksgiving Classic. All right, so we already talked about the relationship between Nemechek and Bayshore and how that will continue. Barry has to step into a situation where Rodney Childers had that relationship with Kevin Harvick for years. Mm-hmm. Josh Berry is not Kevin Harvick.
No.
Okay, and I don't mean that as a put down. I'm just saying he does things differently than Kevin Harvick. He'll say things a little differently than Kevin Harvick. You know, it's the same thing. If the three of us were put into a car with one crew chief, Matt's got one way of saying how the car feels. I'll have another way of saying it, and John will have a third way. This is that opportunity for them to build that rapport so that they understand each other and how to go about communicating getting into this Cup season next year.
This is a pure communication establishment run right here.
No, it doesn't mean that they don't have a chance to win.
Well, with Barry's success in the late model stock car events and the Cars Tour style events like this, he's an immediate threat to win, especially paired with Childers.
Paired with Childers, running for Kevin Harvick, who we know doesn't suffer bad performances that well. So, yeah, I get the funny feeling they're going to do pretty well. Spire Motorsports, meanwhile, fielding a third car this season. We've talked about that. That's the Zane Smith car. He jumps up from the Craftsman Truck Series straight to Cup. He'll be teaming with Corey LaJoie in the 7 and Carson Hocevar, another Truck to Cup Series jump. Hocevar will be in the 77, but we've been wondering what that third car would be numbered. We finally found out on Wednesday. The team announced it was going to use the number 71. I wonder what Dave Marcus thinks of that.
Yeah, him and what in the TRG Motorsports is this?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
However, that was all that was announced. The team still needs a crew chief, and we're still waiting on a primary sponsor announcement. Okay. The team that Spire got that third charter from, Live Fast Motorsports, has announced at the time the sale that they did plan to field an open car for 2024, meaning that they were going to need to qualify for any race on speed. The first time they're going to try it, predictably, the 2024 Daytona 500. BJ McLeod will continue as the driver. But things are changing over at Live Fast Motorsports. McLeod talked to media on Tuesday. Let it be known that he and the team would attempt to qualify for all 6 superspeedway races, the 2 races at Daytona, the 2 at Talladega, the 2 at Atlanta. He also added that they're looking to try to qualify for most, if not all, of the road course events coming up on the 2024 schedule if they can find the proper driver. Which, of course, tells me that B.J. McLeod's not confident enough in his own road course racing abilities to do it. Josh Bilicki was in the 78 for the road course races in the season just ended. Mm-hmm. And then he threw an interesting monkey wrench into the works when he noted that Matt Tifft, team co-owner and co-founder, is stepping away from his duties with the organization as he turns his attention back to racing himself. Now, Tifft was medically cleared to compete earlier this year. He did get back to racing. He raced a late model to begin with, and he's seeking more chances. McLeod talked about that. He said, quote, Live Fast will operate just as it has. Matt's going to move on and pursue other opportunities that he has on his side, so it'll just be myself, Jessica, and Joe Falk on the Live Fast side. Everything on the appearance side is going to remain the same. So here's the thing, and I have to admit I don't know this because I've looked and I can't find it out.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Matt Tifft becomes a silent partner and continues, or has he effectively sold his interest in Live Fast Motorsports to the Falks and to BJ McLeod?
From what I understand, he's sold it all.
Okay.
And
wow.
$40 million selling the charter and getting a little bit of kickback for getting your part out of it. Yeah, he's smiling all the way to wherever his local bank is in North Carolina.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and if anybody knows this, BJ McLeod does, still got to get that sponsorship going. Even if it's only for 10 races, give or take.
BJ could take his part and fully fund the Xfinity car and then some.
Oh, yeah. You are right about that.
So why would there even be a question of running the Xfinity car full-time or part-time? Put it on the track and go.
There you go. Sooner or later, this will all be folded into one operation, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hendrick Motorsports driver Chase Elliott got on social media just yesterday, updated his fans, told him he underwent a surgeon's care. He fixed a shoulder injury. He termed it, quote, an old injury that I just needed to get tended to, unquote. Promised that despite the fact that he appeared on his social media post in a shoulder sling, He'll be ready to go when the 2024 season gets rolling. He didn't detail exactly what it was. I get the funny feeling it had something to do with probably a previous wreck at some point in time.
Yeah. I think it did, yeah.
I don't think it had to do anything with that snowboarding incident that he had that caused him to miss half a dozen races earlier this year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I kind of doubt it because it seems like he's talking about something that happened well before that.
Right.
And that's just kind of my take.
That's what I gathered out of it, too.
Let's show you one more picture here before we go to break. And when we talked about the Cup Series schedule a few weeks ago here on the show, we noted that both 2024 Cup Series races at Richmond are actually going to go under the lights. And as such, Richmond head honchos changed up their logo a bit to reflect that. You can see it right now on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Richmond Raceway. Depending on which one you get, this one right here has a black background. I saw one that had a blue background that had Richmond in black lettering. The Richmond, the word Raceway in white lettering. Here you can see where the black background's there and the blue lettering for Richmond, the white lettering for Raceway. You got the track outline, the D-shaped oval off to the left side of it. The image, again, also inside has a sweeping left-hand curve, kind of like through the D-shaped portion of the track along the front stretch. And John and I, as we were driving in this morning, we heard an interview that Dave Moody did on Sirius XM Satellite Radio with the president of Richmond Raceway. And she said because Richmond is considered the river city, it's also to kind of echo the James River. I don't see that as much as the D-shaped curve, but okay,
no.
I'll let you go with it. Up above, you got, in red, 4 buildings meant to represent the Richmond skyline, and then you get some stars shining. Now, as noted during the tribute to Ken Squire, we've had the opportunity, both Matt and I, to go to Richmond Raceway and call a race there. Mm-hmm. I got news for you. At nighttime at Richmond Raceway, you can't see one star in the sky. There's way too much ambient light. But I love the effort. I like the logo. It looks good. Congratulations to them. And by the way, tickets are now on sale for those Richmond races at richmondraceway.com. When we come back, at the risk of sounding like a real estate agent, I'm going to take us back to Kevin Harvick and show you a house they just bought. I've got a small connection to this particular house, as it turns out. Very, very tenuous connection to it. But I just couldn't resist talking about this house because I got a connection to it, and, well, so does NASCAR.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Pardon me as I clear my throat. Live on the air. Now, for the record, I was in the movie Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, for about a second and a half toward the very end of the film. I'll tell you where to look, and if you can find me, good on you. Towards the end of the movie, as they're getting ready to leave the track, they're out in one of the parking lots in the background, and as they walk up towards the Chevrolet where Gary Cole is sitting on the hood of the Chevelle, the famed Chevelle. In the background, there are several vehicles that roll by. One of them is a pickup truck. It's got two people in the back. One's waving an American flag. The other's waving the checkered flag. I'm the one waving the American flag. Again, if you can find me, good on you, because it's quick. Anyway, earlier in the movie, Ricky Bobby becomes a very highly successful racer. Spoiler alert, I know. But he buys a huge house in North Carolina, which is, by the way, a real house. And that real house now belongs to 2014 Cup Series champion and soon-to-be Fox broadcaster Kevin Harvick. You're watching on CRN Live on YouTube. You can now see this rather monstrous home. He and his wife, Delana, bought it back in October for a rather cool $6.75 million. And that was less than what it was initially listed for. It initially listed for $8.4 million. So we got him a deal. You can see the front of the house on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of jalopnik.com. Listings for this Cornelius, North Carolina abode states that it is on the Lake Norman lakefront. Features 12,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, an infinity pool, a private boat dock, and a 4-car garage, which seems, for Kevin Harvick, not enough.
No.
All right. Hope you enjoy the house, Kevin.
Good luck. All I can say, good luck.
If anybody can afford the property taxes on that place, it's Kevin Harvick. And while Kevin Harvick enjoys his new Ricky Bobby house and time in the Fox NASCAR booth, he is not, he says, ruling out running some races in either the Xfinity or the Truck Series in 2024. He's only ruled out Cup Series racing. He appeared on the Dale Jr. Download this week, said he will not run another Cup Series race, but then hedged his bets on racing overall, saying, quote, "I'm not sure yet. The door is open. I'm not going to drive Cup ever again. I can't be competitive. Can't make myself go there and say I'm looking for a top 30. That's what it would be. I'd be lucky to run 30th. What team is he thinking he's going to run for?
Good question.
Anyway, he goes on to say he might run Xfinity or trucks, but noted that he is co-owner of the car's late model tour, so feels that he could easily quench his thirst for competitiveness by simply jumping into one of his own late models. But I think I could see the super late model during the week, or could race the super late model during the week, because they got a lot of Tuesday night races and Thursday night races. Need to go drive it first. The driving piece for me is still there. I just don't know what that means yet, or what I'm going to do to race, and what I'm going to race, and exactly what it consists of. But it won't be a lot. Well, he was talking to the right guy. He's talking to Dale Jr., who does a select bit of racing himself. Specifically one Xfinity Series race a year, except for this past year where he decided to go nuts and do 2.
And considering that he's doing a lot more late model racing too, and they co-own the Cars Tour.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Get the funny feeling there's
Yeah,
more
there's gonna be a
conversation
little more
being
to it.
done behind the scenes than there was actually on the download.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's this guy that we're about to show you on CRN Live on YouTube. This picture courtesy coming from P1Racing.com. You might remember the name Josh Williams, or you might not. Josh Williams has been in and around NASCAR for a number of years now, but is likely best known for the situation earlier this year where at the spring race in Atlanta, he was told by NASCAR to park that number 92 Chevrolet because of things that were done on the track. So Williams did, right on the front stretch, at the start-finish line, causing NASCAR to have to extend a yellow and bring out a tow truck and haul it back to the garage. Yeah, he was told to go sit in the NASCAR hauler until the end of the race when they finally got around to him and told him, don't ever do that again. But according to Chris Rice of Cowlick Racing, the building he's standing in front of in that picture that's on CRN Live on YouTube, that was more than enough for the team to say that if they had the chance, they needed to go get him. So they did. He'll pilot their number 11 Camaro in the Xfinity Series in 2024. Williams is now 30 years old, hails from Florida. He's been running an Xfinity competition since 2016. He ran the entire 2023 season for DGM Racing, who he parked the car for on the front stretch. He actually has 167 of his career, 186 starts with that team. Primary sponsorship will come from Alloy Employer Services there. This is, no disrespect to you, Josh, but this is by far going to be Josh Williams' best car ever in Xfinity competition.
That and then some, and he's now, in my opinion, he's an immediate threat to win the first super speedway race right out of the gate.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
He's a very good super speedway racer.
Knowing Cowlig's super speedway program?
And
my gosh, yeah.
And he's in arguably, anybody wants to argue, I'll argue with you. He's arguably, let me back up here.
Okay.
He's arguably in the best super speedway cars in Xfinity.
Mm-hmm.
He's arguably been one of the most underrated super speedway racers.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you can take a DGM car and be in the conversation with 5 laps to go at Daytona or Talladega,
sure,
you're a good super speedway racer.
That you are.
So here's his shot. Here is his shot for sure.
I wonder, they didn't say how many years this deal was for, which leads me to believe it might be a 1-year deal.
To my understanding, what I've gathered from it, it's year to year.
Okay.
But the next question I've got is, do you still have that dark shirt that you have on in here? Because I found you. I found you.
We got you. So no pressure there, Josh. Time to perform now on the track. Show what you got. And one more note here. Found this out just this morning. Stewart-Haas Racing Xfinity Series driver Riley Erbst, team with his father Troy Erbst, they ran the Baja 1000. And it turns out the father-son duo claimed the overall win.
They did.
Family, going back to Riley's grandfather, has been long involved in off-road racing. Jerry Erbst ran the Baja 1000 going back into the 1970s and has won a couple on his own. And now Riley and Troy can say that they've won it as well. So suddenly Riley Erbst, who we said not even 6 weeks ago, we said this is a kid who's got the talent, he's got the equipment, he needs to go out and claim wins. When we found out his contract with Stewart-Haas Racing had been extended to at least through the 2024 season. What did he turn around and go do? He turned around and he won that weekend at Las Vegas. Now, is that the end-all, be-all? No. He still needs to do it going into 2024. But this kid,
he's gaining steam.
And he's gaining confidence. And that can be a dangerous situation when you consider the fact that while the Stewart-Haas Racing Cup Series operation is having their problems, their Xfinity Series operation ain't hurting. No. Riley Erbst signs a contract, goes out, wins the next weekend. Then we find out the week of the championship race that Cole Custer has signed a deal to officially be back in the 00. And what does he do? Not only does he go out and get himself an Xfinity Series win, he gets the championship as well.
He does.
Xfinity side of things that Stewart-Haas is doing quite well. Mm-hmm. Now they just need to figure out the Cup Series side. To the Truck Series, where earlier, a few weeks ago, let's just deal with this show. Earlier in the show, we noted the 3-car Spire Motorsports Cup Series team. But in that same announcement, they also noted their 3-entry Truck Series team. This is going to feature 2 full-time drivers, Nick Sanchez and Chase Purdy. The 3rd truck will apparently be an all-star truck using several drivers, and Kyle Busch has already said that he hopes to run his 5 allotted races for the team as one of them. Well, why wouldn't you? It's kind of your truck.
As a consultant. His words.
Right. No numbers for the trucks immediately announced, nor crew chiefs, but let's face it, again, this is the old Kyle Busch Motorsports operation, so I imagine a lot of this will carry over. How much? We don't know. Still waiting on the official word.
I think Purdy's going to keep 4.
Okay.
Sanchez will probably keep 2.
Okay.
Because they basically absorbed up Rev Racing too.
Okay.
So him keeping that Spire flair, I guess you could say.
One of them may have a 7 or 7.
I think the 3rd truck's going to be 7.
Okay. As opposed to the 51.
Yeah. I think 51 has possibly seen his last lap.
Maybe so, or at least for a while. Meanwhile, Hallmark Friesen Racing, you know them of the 52 truck, They've hired a new crew chief for Stuart Friesen, the driver. The crew chief is veteran Craftsman Truck Series shot caller Jimmy Villeneuve. 20-year NASCAR veteran comes over to Hallmark Friesen Racing from the aforementioned Kyle Busch Motorsports, where he had been the crew chief of the Ford truck. What, if anything, does this do as you look ahead to the 52 truck for 2024?
It'll pick him back up.
Okay.
Because he had turnover with the crew chiefs this year. I think he had actually 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Trying to find stability, and this will bring some stability. So I think it'll pick him back up for sure.
And how many times have we talked about how huge that is?
A lot.
Last week we talked about how Tricon Garage had extended their deal with Tanner Gray. He'll be back. His brother Taylor has also been re-signed by the organization in a, I'm not really shocked by this move. Tanner will drive the 17 truck. He'll be full-time his 2023 season. Technically part-time, resulted in 3 top 5 and 6 top 10 finishes. Best finish of second place at Kansas. So Tanner and Taylor are back next year at Tricon. Again, not really a surprise. Meanwhile, ThorSport Racing has announced the signing of an 18-year-old kid out of Monroe, Georgia. His name is Jack Garcia. Garcia is going to drive for them in the Craftsman Truck Series in 2024, but at this time, we don't really know all the details. We do know this. ThorSport, 4 full-time trucks in the 2023 season, featuring 3-time champion Matt Crafton, your 2023 title winner Ben Rhodes, along with Ty Majeski and Haley Deegan. Now, you can see a picture of Garcia standing outside the ThorSport shop on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of racingnews.co. Well, all signs point to Crafton and Rhodes returning, so that'll be the 88 and 98 trucks, respectively. Deegan, who ran the 13 truck, has already been signed to move up to the Xfinity Series, so the 13 truck is open. But then there's Majeski. His future has yet to be discussed, so we're not sure what's going to happen with the 99 yet. Garcia ran 22 of the 23 races this past season with McAnally Hilgeman Racing. He missed only the season opener at Daytona because he hadn't yet turned 18 when that race ran. Age problems. In those 22 races, he claimed 3 top 5 and 9 top 10 finishes. He claimed second in the hectic season finale in Phoenix when it seemed like, well, half the field wrecked each other.
Huh.
But he still made it through there. So ThorSport Racing, now I'm not going to take away anything from McAnally Hilgeman Racing here, because what we saw out of them this year showed that they've got themselves a good, solid foundation there.
They do. They very much do.
But at the same time, is ThorSport do you call it a step up?
I'm calling this a lateral move.
Okay. Because I was thinking at most it's like a half step up.
I'm calling it lateral.
Okay. Straight lateral move. Okay.
Yep.
What are your expectations out of this? I mean, Crafton and Rhodes are obviously competitive. We saw Majeski be competitive. Deegan, on the other hand, she's Haley Deegan. I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, the kid seems to be pretty good. I mean, to take the McAnally Hilgeman stuff and get 9 top 10 finishes and be able to get through everything that he got through at Phoenix to get second place. It's not bad. Not bad at all.
I would say playoffs would be a good expectation.
Okay. And maybe, who knows? Maybe he'll get himself a little bit deeper in there. Who knows?
Maybe so.
We'll find out. Also found out some information this morning, so I'm throwing a curveball at both Matt and producer John in the fact that we got a little bit of Superstar Racing Experience news.
Sweet.
SRX has been relatively quiet until this week when they revealed 2 of the 3 tracks that they're going to in 2024. They're going to kick off the season again at Stafford Speedway in Connecticut, and that kickoff date is going to be July 11th. They also revealed, not that long ago, what race number 4 of the year is going to be, and that'll take them back to Berlin Raceway in Michigan. That'll be on August the 1st. We're still awaiting the rest of the tracks that they're going to run, so we still got 4 more tracks that we got to figure out. Actually, I take that back. We got 3 more. We got 4 more dates that we need to figure out, but we know what one of the other 4 tracks is going to be, and that's going to be the aforementioned Thunder Bowl in Barrie, Vermont. Because if you remember, that was the race that got flooded out due to historic rains in Vermont when they had planned to go there in July and August of this year, and they promised, we're going back there in 2024. So we know that they'll be there. What date? Probably race number 2 right after the season opener at Stafford. And that led you to think what we're probably going to see out of the SRX series again this year.
could see this shaping up to be another northeastern swing.
With maybe the furthest south they come, like they did 2023, maybe Virginia-ish area.
Yeah, possibly.
Virginia, Missouri, I guess is probably the better way to put that.
With an outside shot, they come back to the fairgrounds, which I hope they do.
Bring it on.
So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
see.
And as for Haley Deegan, she reported that she will be full-time in the SRX Series next year in addition to her Xfinity Series duties she's going to take on in 2024. She showed off her 2023 car, the number 5 car with a Good Sam's logo, likely hinting the fact that little to nothing's going to change on that front. She is the first driver confirmed, although we can presume that Tony Stewart will be back because not only is he the founder, but, well, he's been he was the first-year champion and been a full-time racer the whole time. So we can presume he'll be there. But again, we're waiting on official announcements, and that's where we're going to go. Tell you what, I guess we probably got to take a break, huh, Producer John? Are we at that point?
We are.
We are. All right. So we'll go ahead and do that. When we come back, we turn our attention to the straight liners because we got to look back on the 2023 season that just ended. We know the 4 championship winners of the Camping World, soon-to-be Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. We're going to fill out some of that and also update you on one rider specifically, who took a pretty nasty spill. So we'll talk about all that. We got some IndyCar news, some Formula One news. We got some Formula E news. All that coming up. Hour number 2 on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John. sitting in the big chair over there, making sure everything is going on. So appreciate you joining us here. A lot of people, a lot of conversation going on the CRN Live on YouTube chat, and I appreciate y'all taking advantage of it. It's a lot of fun going back and forth with you guys. To the NHRA, where Kelly Klontz was taken to a local medical center on Saturday out in Southern California during the third round of Pro Stock motorcycle qualifying. As she crossed the timing line, the finish line, bucked off of her ride, but was conscious and alert, remained on site, well, examined on site, I should say, by NHRA safety and medical personnel who decided that she needed further evaluation and transported her. She is fine. She has updated everybody. Basically, a lot of bruises, but overall, thankfully, came out of it healthy.
No doubt.
On a better note, it was Klontz's fellow division rider, Chase Van Zandt, who claimed the 2023 NHRA Rookie of the Year for the Camping World Drag Racing Series. He bested top fueler Dan Mercier and Pro Stock car pilots David Quadra, Eric Latino, and Jerry Tucker for the honor. You can see the picture of the new Rookie of the Year winner on CRN Live on YouTube right now, courtesy of NHRA.com. Van Zandt's first race was the 2023 season opener, the Gator Nationals. He made the semifinals, the first of 4 times that he made the semifinals this year. He finishes 9th in the final Pro Stock motorcycle standings, as we detailed in the recap of the series at the beginning of the show about an hour ago. So there's the official, what they would call hero card, right there on CRN Live on YouTube right there. So we'll have to see how year number 2 does. Can he avoid the sophomore slump? And I'll ask this question, you being the resident racer. This pretty much goes across the board here. If you come out and you do something good, like win a Rookie of the Year, or you go out and you win, well, I'll use Tony Stewart, for example, who came out and won 3 races in his rookie year. Mm-hmm. Some drivers experience a sophomore slump. Others don't. They just seem to just go right on. Is that more of a perceived thing, the sophomore slump, or is that something that is actually real?
It's 50-50 if you ask me.
Okay. More perception than anything else?
It can be perception and it can be real.
Okay.
So maybe he will be on the perception end versus the reality side of it.
Okay. I mean, he seemed to have a good bike under him, made semifinals 4 times.
Yeah.
You know, didn't win a race, finishes 9th in final standings. I think next year to maybe shoot for top 5 in the final standings and make a finals.
I would say that's realistic.
Okay.
That'd be realistic.
The 4 Camping World Drag Racing Series division champs were honored at their 2023 season-ending awards ceremony that was held Monday evening at the Pachanga Resort and Casino. It's easy for me to say. It's about an hour away from the Pomona track. Hour number 2, getting it started off on the wrong foot. The Pomona track where they locked down those titles. In addition, a new award got handed out. The NHRA's come up with a Crew of the Year award. It feted 1 team in each of the 4 divisions. It was based upon statistics like average qualifying position, average ET, a speed index, whatever that means, average points per race, and a whole lot of other factors. To nobody's surprise, the Capco Contractors Top Fuel team of Steve Torrance claimed that division's honor. Tony Stewart's Matt Hagen Funny Car crew picked up the win there, so I guess that's probably not a big surprise either. In Pro Stock Car, the first honoree went to the Rad Torque Systems team of Dallas Glenn. And then, no surprise here, the winner in Pro Stock Motorcycle was Vance and Hines team of Gage Herrera.
Shocker.
I know. Shouldn't we all be? Chevrolet claimed the NHRA Manufacturers Cup. That marks the 7th straight season for them to do it and 28th overall for Chevrolet. And then next year, now we talked about an all-star call-out race. All-star call-out races have kicked up, and it was sponsored by Mission Foods for 2023 in both the Top Fuel and the Funny Car divisions. Well, now we're going to get everybody involved in it. And for the Pro Stock Car and Pro Stock Motorcycle divisions, they got themselves a title sponsor of their own. And no, it's not Mission Foods. It's Getrix, powered by Global Electronic Technology. You're about to see a picture of that and kind of get an idea of what the logos will look like on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of NHRA.com. Global Electronics Technology and Getrix specializes in credit card processing machines and technology for businesses of all kinds. The Getrix NHRA Pro Stock Car All-Star Call-Out will happen on Saturday, May 18th during the Route 66 Nationals weekend in Chicago. The Getrix Pro Stock Motorcycle All-Star Call-Out will take place at Sonoma Raceway, June 27th, part of the Denso NHRA Sonoma Nationals, on Saturday, July 27th. And, of course, like in Top Fuel and in Funny Car, there's bonus money if you win the All-Star Call-Out in either Pro Stock Car or Pro Stock Motorcycle. You net about, well, the total purse for each of those call-outs is $140,000. And considering it's only 4 drivers, I would say the winner probably gets, give or take, half that.
Not a bad little bonus payout.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. When you consider the fact that, and we've talked about this before, and I'll give the quick rundown again, because we constantly get new listeners and new viewers, new listeners to our flagship station, which if you're watching on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see it right there in the background behind me. So we got the radio listeners, we got our YouTube viewers and listeners as well. But if you're new, and again, a lot of you are, when it comes to how much it costs to field a car at the top level of the series that we cover is Formula One. Remember, they got a budget cap. And trust me, all 10 teams and all 20 cars are right at this budget cap of $145 million per car. Then you go to NASCAR, Cup Series specifically. To field a highly competitive car, $20 to $25 million. In some cases, and over the course of time, that probably will edge up a little bit to about $30 million. But generally, $20 to $25 million will field you a competitive Cup Series car. To Indycar, we're starting to hear that that's edged up. It used to be at about $5 million. Now it's between $5 and $7 million. Mm-hmm. And that's not quite, a little bit lower than that. About $4 to $6 million is a highly competitive, what we will now call a Mission Foods Drag Racing Series operation. Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle, $4 to $6 million per entry. So there you go. $70,000 comes in handy.
Yeah, quite a bit.
All right, let's turn our attention over to some American-based open wheel racing, and really what is no surprise whatsoever, considering two things. First, he's family, and second, they've been working on it since, well, the end of the 2023 season. Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing has signed Graham Rahal to a multi-year contract extension. Duh. The son of Bobby Rahal joined the team in 2013. 5 of 6 career series wins came with that organization, and he is part of a 3-car operation that will consist of him and the 15-car. Pietro Fittipaldi is taking over the 30-car, and in the 45 it'll be Christian Lundgaard. Graham said of the new deal, quote, "I'm extremely excited to get a new multi-year agreement in place and hopefully continue to build and improve the team. At the end of the season, we saw some glimpses of what we can and should be. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure that we continue to grow and get ourselves in a place for continuous success. But I'm excited about the signs that I saw. I'm also excited to continue working with the tremendous partners that we have. It's important for me to continue to represent them and hopefully do a great job for them as we go forward. I'm glad that we were able to come together with Mike, my dad, David, and everyone at the organization to continue together. But again, I say this. Yeah, they're saying all the right words, but did anybody feel like that this wasn't actually going to happen?
No, it was going to happen. I mean, because simply put, why would it not?
Yeah. I mean, unless he's announcing his retirement.
Yeah, why would it not?
He's coming back.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm curious about, and I'm pretty sure I already probably know the answer to this, is he going to be back in SRX?
I don't know.
We'll find out. Let's see what else we got going on. Andretti Global. We're going to get back to them in Formula One, too. Andretti Global in IndyCar, anyway, has nixed the idea of being a 4-car operation for 2024. They're going to stick with the 3 cars on the drivers that they previously announced. Now, when they initially chose to field 4 cars 20 years ago, back in 2004, it paid off immediately. They won the title in 2004, 2005, and again in 2007. And for 16 of the prior 18 years, they were a 4-car operation. But it's been a decade since they won their last title. So they are choosing to pare down a little bit, take 3 cars, concentrate on the 3 cars, making sure that they're all 3 competitive, and they're gunning for a title, despite still having a month and a half left. We'll get back to the month and a half thing in a minute. For Andretti Autosport, I get it. Because sometimes this is a huge deal. You're able to take all the resources that you had concentrating on 4 cars and now narrow their focus down to 3 cars.
Right.
Because they're not pairing people, except for a driver. The rest of the support personnel, the people that are at the shop, the people that are going to the tracks, those are the same number of people. But the money and the parts, now all of a sudden, instead of being split 4 ways, are only split 3. And for a team that can put the resources out there into the efforts into those cars that we know Andretti Global can.
For sure.
This is huge. Watch out for them. Watch out.
There's no reason it shouldn't pick them back up.
I am fully in agreement with you on that. And if it doesn't, heads may begin to roll over at Andretti.
Yeah, true.
All right, like I said, like I kind of started off talking about, we got about a month and a half left in the 2023 calendar year. 2024 season, though, looms large. And for many, it's going to begin in Daytona, not with speed weeks, but with the Rolex 24 Hours, a race that Matt and I had the chance to go to earlier this year. It was a pretty cool thing to go to it and see it live.
Very.
The flight there and back wasn't exactly what I'd call the most comfortable, but that's another story entirely.
Yeah.
Several IndyCar drivers have already announced they're going to be participating in it. To nobody's surprise, 6-time champion Scott Dixon, who is also a 3-time overall winner of the 24 Hours at Daytona, leads a list of several IndyCar drivers confirming they're going to be racing. Some of the others, Joseph Newgarden, Alexander Rossi, James Hinchcliffe, Kyle Kirkwood, others. Let's see. Dixon and Sebastian Bourdais teaming up with Cadillac. Andretti Cadillac. Never mind. Cadillac in the GTP division. I'm sorry, I'm kind of flashing forward to something that we're going to be talking about in a minute.
Color me shocked.
They're going to be with Cadillac in the GTP division in different entries. Also running GPT for Penske in a Porsche will be Joseph Newgarden. Then you got Colton Herta. He's joined Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Global. He's joining XF1 driver Jenson Button in that entry. I'll get back to the Jenson Button thing in a minute. Marcus Ericsson's going to drive the other car for that team as they field Acuras. Then you drop down from GTP to GTD. You've got, Alexander Rossi and James Hinchcliffe. They're going to pair as 2 of the drivers going to be driving for Pfaff Motorsports in their McLaren 720 racer. It's a nice car, by the way. Kyle Kirkwood is going to be joining Vassar Sullivan Racing in their Lexus. He'll pair with former IndyCar Series driver Jack Hawksworth. So those are the drivers that we know right now. As we get closer, we'll find out more, probably IndyCar drivers, and we probably will find some NASCAR drivers who will take advantage of the opportunity as well, because we have seen that on numerous occasions. And one more note in IndyCar before we take a break. Last week, we talked about the fact that video game maker Motorsport Games, they're having such financial troubles that they actually shelved several games in the middle of their development, and that included their planned IndyCar video game. Well, IndyCar took time to look at their options, decided on Wednesday, and officially terminated the contract with the company. The paperwork notes that this agreement is terminated due to their, quote, this is legalese, ladies and gentlemen, so pardon me, quote, failure to satisfy certain of its obligations under the IndyCar license agreements, including making IndyCar Racing Series video gaming products available in the United States, unquote. In other words, you didn't do what we contracted you to do. You're out.
Yeah.
Motorsport Games is a publicly traded company and had to file that paperwork with the Securities and Exchange Commission, otherwise in the South known as the other SEC, regarding IndyCar's notice. Responded to the filing with their own. I love this. Motorsport Games' own filing says that, in part, they are, quote, evaluating the validity of IndyCar's notice of termination, including demands for certain payments under the IndyCar agreement. IndyCar hasn't announced their next move. They're probably waiting on Motorsport Games to announce their next move. If Motorsport Games takes this thing to court, you're not only paying all the court costs, you're going to owe IndyCar money. Because this is on you.
Yeah.
It ain't on IndyCar. This is called breach of contract, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't provide what you contracted saying you would. You're done.
Yep.
Or to borrow the phrase from the former president of the United States, you're fired. Now, NASCAR already made the move over to iRacing. The problem is here, IndyCar ended their contract with iRacing to go to Motorsport Games. So did they go to iRacing now and hat in hand go, will you take us back? It'd probably be advisable.
Yep, it's coming.
Next up, after we take this break, which producer John will set up for us here in a moment, we're going to talk Las Vegas because we're going to switch over to Formula One.
Because it's going to take these last two segments.
Yeah, because he's got something he wants to tee off on. And I've got some other stuff I want to tee off on. And I'm looking square at the two-time and soon-to-be officially 3-time defending Formula One Series champion. So we'll get to all that. And we got a little Formula E news as well. Should we actually do the Formula E news and then do Formula One?
Yeah. Whatever you think.
We'll talk about it during the break. We'll let you know when we come back here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Championship Racing Network.
Well, that break was a little longer than what we planned, and we apologize for that. We had a slight weird technical glitch. Welcome to computers. Yeesh. Thank you, Producer John. Appreciate all your hard work over there, man.
Welcome. It left me saying, what the?
Yeah, we were all kind of trying to figure that one out. We made the executive decision, by the way, to go ahead and talk Formula E before we then flip to Formula One.
Meaning I said that's what we're doing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the producer's job. The first ever Tokyo E-Prix going to take place in the upcoming 10th season of the all-electric racing series. Already, Formula E officials state that they want to return to the Japanese capital instead of being one and done there. And it took a bit of work to get the Tokyo Metro government to give them all the clearances to hold the race on city streets, and it should actually prove to be challenging if it goes off as they state. It's a less than 2 mile long, 18-turn course scheduled for the weekend of March 29th through the 31st. And despite the fact that the provisional season 11 schedule isn't even slated to come to light until June of this coming year, Formula E officials stated they've already penciled Tokyo in for the weekend of May 16th through the 18th of 2025. So yeah, they're hoping to make it an annual trip. Meanwhile, Formula E wants to continue to have a bigger footprint in the motorsport world, and as such, have signed a deal with a premium clothing brand to produce new apparel for the teams with an eye toward bigger partnerships. The deal to outfit the 11 teams is with a company called Hackett London, which launched a sub-brand, Hackett Sport, earlier this year. They'll outfit the teams with all the official team and series clothing, from wicking sport shirts to outerwear coats, a whole lot more. The deal may, they say, in the future include the company making apparel to sell to fans. And let's face it, if there's anything that we as race fans like to do is support our teams. So probably I would say the sooner you get that out, the better.
Agreed.
To Formula One now, and we'll tee off as appropriately these come up to play. Now, first of all, it's Las Vegas. You're running a race in Las Vegas, a major tourist destination at really literally almost any point of the year. And then you decide that you're going to run the race in this major tourist destination on Thanksgiving week, where many people take the entire week off here in the United States of America. Oh, yeah, right. By the way, us here at CRN, we're among them. We'll talk about that in a minute. But apparently not all the folks who put on races on the city streets all the time, Formula One themselves, realized any of that. The commercial rights holders of the series should have, American-based Liberty Media, but they have now issued a formal apology to the city of Las Vegas and its residents for the interruptions that the preparations for tonight's race have caused. Residents have been active and vocal with their frustrations, even going so far as to tear down the plastic that's meant to keep those who aren't paying from being able to see the race and a whole lot more. Plus, for the better part of this year, work to prepare the area, including paving the streets, construction of the permanent pit and paddock area, and a whole lot more, causing detours and other delays for the residents and tourists alike. Greg Maffei, who's Liberty CEI's CEO, issued a statement this week that read, quote, "I want to apologize to all the Las Vegas residents, and we appreciate that they have their forbearance and their willingness to tolerate us." Some more so than others, it would appear. Maffei's statement continued, quote, "We're going to bring something like $1.7 billion of revenue to the area, so it's not just for the benefit of the fans who want to view it. We hope that this is a great economic benefit in Las Vegas. We hope that this is the most difficult year with all the construction that went on, and things will get easier from here on out in the future." It should, assuming that you're not one and done.
Should. But I'll go ahead and let's just call this putting the tee in the ground and setting the ball on the tee.
Because there's more to come.
Oh, there's more to come. So with the griping and fussing about the date.
Yes.
Okay. Of it being cold. People, it's 50. I know it gets colder in England, Germany, Italy, places like that where these drivers live and teams reside. I know it gets colder. Yep. Okay.
And you've raced in it.
And you've raced in it before, I'm sure.
And what happens, by the way, when you get into a race car and you're driving around at, we'll just throw 200 miles an hour out there as a nice base run for whatever series we're talking about?
You warm up.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
50 degrees ain't going to mean nothing to you.
So
Sorry.
So they're this being discussed for the next season's date because apparently I thought the 24 schedule was already out, and apparently it's not.
It's not complete.
Not complete. Talking about moving it back to the weekend of October 17th to 19th. Want to take a guess who else is in town October that weekend?
Oh, I'm thinking maybe a stock car series.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
NASCAR Formula One doubleheader, anybody?
Las Vegas would implode if that happens.
Ain't happening. We'll get back to that. By the way, for those of you that are kind of curious about this schedule for tonight, it's an American-based race. And generally, what we see is they tend to schedule the races for times when it is good for the home country to be able to watch it. But instead, in this case, it starts, as we noted at the beginning of the show, at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, midnight Central, 11 p.m. Mountain Time, and in Las Vegas time, Pacific time, 10 p.m. start. This was done for two reasons I've now found out. Number one, European television.
European crowd.
Okay. They're going to be able to see it at a regular time for them. But number two, it's for the workers at the resorts and the casinos along the strip. Because shift change happens at about 4 in the morning, which means that the overnight shift ends at 4 a.m., right? Pacific time. 8 hours before that, right in the middle, is the race. I will give them this. They're bending over backwards not to get in the way as much as they can avoid, get in the way of the natural operations of the casinos that they are surrounding. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, couldn't you have done it like in the middle of second shift? You're doing a race in a market where you are sincerely wanting to become huge. And then you take the entire eastern half of the country and say, can you stay up after midnight and watch 2 hours racing?
Why couldn't they start at 8 or 9 Central?
Again, shift change.
Still.
Okay. 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. So shift it back. You want to be in the middle? Go to the earlier one, noon to 8. Start the race in Vegas. It won't be as cold. At, 2 or 3. And you're done well before 8.
Oh, 8 o'clock is shift change.
Bingo.
Started at 4. Run it into the sunset.
Mm-hmm. Just ideas. We're idea people.
Crazy.
We're idea people. We're available for a consultancy fee.
And you wonder why F1 isn't that big in the United States as opposed to Europe.
Oh, wait. There's more. And this is where the big tee shot's going to come from that guy right over there. We'll find out about the economic benefit as time goes on. Big problem number one popped up in the Las Vegas Grand Prix when practice session number 1 got halted less than 10 minutes into it because of a loose drain cover, which you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of SkySports.com. Carlos Sainz ran right over it because he ended up having to stop his Ferrari entry on the track, triggering a red flag. When he complained about the cover, officials looked at what he was talking about, called the first practice off to ensure that it wouldn't come loose again. They extended the second practice session from 60 to 90 minutes to try and get it taken care of. That is a sizable hole right there, which they had to patch because that was part of the newly paved track, and they already have had to go out and patch it. See how that goes. Sainz's car, meanwhile, got damaged, prompted Ferrari to have to change a number of things, a host of things, really, in connection to the power unit. Since he is over his allotted number of changes on the season, that means he gets a penalty. He's going to start 10 positions further back than where he ultimately qualified. By the way, he qualified second, so now he starts 12th. Staying with that.
Wow.
This is tee shot time. Because the question that producer John has about why he incurred a 10 grid spot penalty is exactly why the Big Bertha driver is in the hands of one Matt Nicholson.
Boys, this ain't Big Bertha shot. This is Happy Gilmore shot I'm about to take. First off, one, why in the world are we using concrete to seal up drain covers?
I know.
Why are they not using what's simply called a tack weld? Weld it to know that it won't come off. And guess what, Las Vegas? How you dislodge them and get them back to where they're removable is called a blowtorch.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts it real easy. Look at it. Look it up.
You guys should have talked to the Secret Service about this, because anytime the president goes anywhere and takes the big beast limo anywhere, what do? They tack weld down all the manhole covers on the route that they drive on.
Yeah, so somebody just can't walk in the manhole cover and just pop up and say, oh, hey, boom, see ya. Just so that can't happen. So downforce and pressure from the cars that run over it will break said concrete. This is a logistical disaster on the part of the track being put together and the F1 inspection, because of Las Vegas streets couldn't be shut down until X amount of time. It was only shut down 2.5 hours before practice was able to start. That therefore caused an improper inspection. Okay. Secondly, F1, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. Because being a defect in the track, being an incomplete inspection, and that's what I'm going to call it, an incomplete inspection.
That's a good way to put it.
You're penalizing a driver and a team that had damage to their car from an incomplete track inspection. Absolutely pathetic. And I'm saying this while dealing with an injury, and it hurts me to talk because I'm dealing with a broken rib injury right now, and it hurts. But I'm going to say it. Absolutely pathetic.
All of these things are things that, of all this motorsport series that we talk about, they should be prepared for.
Fred Vasseur has a legitimate reason to be irate because he's incurring for his team a 10-spot grid penalty for
a Formula One problem.
A Formula One track problem.
Yeah.
Think about it happens.
IndyCar is used to running street course races, but Formula One has been doing it longer, arguably. They should know what to be looking for when it comes to putting on a street course race.
Sure.
How did they miss this?
Graham Rahal had the best quote of the week when this happened. If they're complaining about a freshly repaved streets in Vegas, they'll love Detroit.
Oh, God.
They would love downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you remember watching that race?
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching IndyCar cars on Detroit. Oof. They were bouncing all over the place.
But to call practice off and you don't refund your fans that bought tickets to FP1 and paid that much money to call it off 8 minutes when I know there are concrete products and things that are made that can seal a manhole cover faster than what they did it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
Pathetic thing number 2. And this goes to me basically using the phrase, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Max Verstappen. Wednesday, Formula One in Las Vegas. Please remember those 3 keywords. In Las Vegas. Held an opening ceremony. All 20 drivers were there. They were in attendance. They were being shown off. And they had several music acts. Some of them I've never heard of. Bishop Briggs. Tiesto. Others I've heard of. My favorite rock music act of all time is Journey. They were there. Country music artist Keith Urban was there. Kylie Minogue was there. John Legend was there. I know of 30 Seconds to Mars and Will.i.am, even though I'm not necessarily huge fans of their music. They were all there. They put on a big show. They introduced Las Vegas to the 20 drivers. And then Verstappen comes out and says he could step out of Formula One now and not miss it because of things like Wednesday. When asked about his thoughts of the opening ceremony held on Wednesday, he said, quote, "For me, you can skip this. We're just standing up there looking like a clown. I mean, yeah." Later on, when he was asked if he had said anything to Formula One officials, he responded, quote, "I don't know. I guess they'll still make money if I like it or not, so it's not up to me, but I'm not going to fake it. I'm just always voicing my opinion on positive things and negative things. That's just how I am. Some people like the show a bit more. I don't like it at all. I grew up just looking at the performance side of things, and that's how I see it as well. So for me, I like to be in Vegas. Not so much, though, for the racing." He later added that this weekend in Las Vegas seems more like 99% show, 1% sporting event. Now, Max, here's the deal. Again, your series is trying its level best to become a major player in the motorsports game here in the United States of America. It's why now they have 3 races in the United States. You're in Las Vegas. Remember those 3 words? They're back. If anybody knows even the slightest thing about Las Vegas, overdoing things is what they do. Vegas is famous for saying this much is great, this much is better. They're going to overdo things. They're going to make massive productions out of it. But here's the thing, Max. For the American motorsport fan, even the casual American motorsport fan who just happens to come across a Formula One race now and then, and otherwise they might have seen Netflix's F1 Drive to Survive, this was a chance for them to actually see you outside of a car without a helmet obscuring everything but your eyeballs. They actually now have a face that they can put to the name of 3-time Formula One champion Max Verstappen, who then, by the way, also showed his appreciation for it by skipping out in a scheduled fan event meet at the Wynn Hotel on Thursday. Didn't give a good reason, just said, nope, don't want to go. You want to know why NASCAR and the NHRA and Indycar are all handing Formula One its lunch when it comes to fan participation in the United States? Because of crap like that.
Yep.
So here's the deal, Max. If you don't like it, leave. Retire. Step away. You've made millions. And nobody but only the most ardent Max Verstappen fans are going to miss you.
And Christian Horner.
Because if they're Red Bull fans, they'll still be Red Bull fans.
Yeah.
If they're fans of Ferrari or Haas F1 or McLaren or Alpine or any of the other teams that are on the grid, they're still going to be fans of any one of those other 9 teams. It's only the most ardent fans of one Max Verstappen that are going to give a flying rat's behind that you're no longer racing. So if you don't like it, understanding that you're fighting for your series survival on the shores of the United States, leave. And you'll be surprised how few people care.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
The city of Anniston is now hiring. Here's your...
we're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Still in Formula One talk here as we are in the final segment of the show. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John. For those curious, by the way, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. First ever live sporting event that Netflix had called the Netflix Cup, which paired pro golfers with Formula One drivers, a live event on Wednesday before the official opening ceremonies. The winners were golfer Justin Thomas and Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz. Picture you're going to see now on CRN Live, courtesy of Reddit.com. Thing is, in the post-event winner ceremony, see if this sounds familiar to something that happened earlier on this year. Thomas, the golfer, took a drink out of the cup, then turned around and handed it over to Sainz, who promptly dropped it and broke it.
That rings a bell.
Yeah. They bested, by the way, the pairing of Tony Finau and Pierre Gasly in the closest to the pin contest to claim the overall win. Again, you can see the picture of them with the cup before it was broken from Reddit.com. Thank you very much for that. Then there's this. And I'm going to start this right now. Before I even give you the story, I'm going to start the slow clap. To General Motors. This soap opera took an interesting twist. That potential Andretti Cadillac entry, remember the entry into Formula One that's been approved by the governing body, the FIA, but at this time Formula One management has yet to vote on it because they're claiming they're waiting to see what the team might actually bring to the table. And of course, you got all the complaining from all the other really spoiled, rotten F1 other people who are already in because we don't want to give up our little piece of the pie because we're afraid it's not going to grow. General Motors called you bluff, you bunch of short-sighted morons. GM has filed their official registration to become an official Formula One power unit supplier beginning in the 2028 season. And in their announcement, they stated that once they're approved, it is for the Andretti Cadillac team only.
Good.
Think about that for a couple minutes, boys and girls. All the buzz about, hey, General Motors should come in. We'd love to have GM come in. We could use their engines. Okay, yeah, we'll come in with Andretti. That's why I started this slow clap. It's perfect.
Yep.
Call the bluff, boys and girls. Call the bluff. GM President Mark Royce said this, quote, "We are thrilled that our Andretti Cadillac F1 entry will be powered by a GM power unit. With our deep engineering and racing expertise, we're confident we'll develop a successful power unit for the series and position Andretti Cadillac as a true works team. We'll run with the very best at the highest levels with passion and integrity that'll help elevate the sport for race fans around the world." And if it does that, what does that do for the purse? Makes up for the fact that you split it 11 ways instead of 10. This means GM joins 6 other companies as now officially power unit registrars, suppliers for the next generation. Beginning in 2026, you got Ferrari, Mercedes, Alpine, Audi, Honda, and as they're officially being called, Red Bull Ford, which, sorry to you Blue Oval fans, it's not actually going to be a Ford. It's going to be an engine that Red Bull's building based upon the blueprints given to them by their current power unit provider, Honda, with a Ford logo on it. GM is at least talking about having literally their own power unit that they build with the GM logo on it. If it comes with Andretti. Ball's in your court now, Formula One. You wanted General Motors. Here's how you get them. Meanwhile, the existing U.S.-based team, Haas F1, introduced a new body style for the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA a few weeks ago, but they really haven't experienced the uptick in performance that they were hoping for. So for this weekend and the season finale in Abu Dhabi, they're going to allow the drivers to choose whichever body style they want. The new downfall side pods are the one that they began the season with. Nico Hülkenberg has been very vocal about liking the older version more, so team boss Gunther Steiner said he's going to let his 2 drivers choose whichever one they want. Quote, "The main drive behind this was Nico feels that for him, the old spec unit suits him better. For Kevin, it's the opposite. We've opted to give them whatever they want. We got 2 races to go, nothing to lose, so we're just going to do what we can. And Steiner added, quote, we could discuss gathering data, but we've got enough data. It's a decision based upon what each driver likes more, puts them in a more comfortable position so that they're as happy as they can be with the car they get. I mean, let's face it, they're sitting in the cellar of the Constructors' Cup standings right now with 2 races to try and get out, so you might as well give them a shot. It seems like it worked because in qualifying, before the 10 grid spot penalty was handed out, Ferrari locked out the front row. Charles Leclerc got the pole, Carlos Sainz second. Kevin Magnussen, with the new version body style Haas F1 car, qualified 9th. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, here we go. Before the grid penalty, it was 9 and 14.
Okay.
No, 9 and 13.
Okay, I thought I saw Nico Hulkenberg in 11th.
Nico Hulkenberg was 13th.
Okay, 13th. After the penalty, that means Kevin Magnussen moves up to 8th, and Nico Hulkenberg starts 12th.
Nico Hulkenberg
No, he'll
stays
start
the same.
13th because,
Stays the same.
Second to 12th.
Yep.
So Kevin Magnussen, from what we understand, is in the new downfall side pods, so didn't seem to bother him.
No.
But here's the biggest problem with the Haas F1 cars, and we've talked about this. It's tire management. Haas F1 has had literally so much downforce in that body style that Nico Hulkenberg is choosing that it's wearing out the tires that much faster.
Correct.
And we've already talked about the fact that these guys are going to hit top speed going down the Las Vegas Strip because the Las Vegas Strip portion of that track is 1.3 miles long. That's a long straightaway.
I think they're estimated to hit 214, 215.
And that's pushing a whole lot of downforce.
Considerably.
It's going to be interesting to see what the result is for Nico in that high downforce version of that particular car. We'll find out.
Yep.
Ferrari, meanwhile, set to unveil a special look for this weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's kind of a throwback to their look for most of the 1970s. Goes back to when Formula One really got into racing in the United States the first time around, back when Niki Lauda was a 2-time series champion. Ferrari drivers like Clay Regazzoni won the 1976 F1 race at Long Beach, 1978 at Watkins Glen with another F1 driver, Carlos Reutemann, claiming the victory there. 1979, Gilles Villeneuve claimed both U.S.-based races for the Heritage Italian team. There's the look. A lot more white than what we see, especially up there on the rear wing where it's white in color with black Ferrari lettering. A lot more white over the top of the car, especially right around the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a good look. They're not the only one throwing out a special paint scheme either. We got 4 other teams, I think, that are throwing it out there that have some sort of reference to the American flag in some way, shape, or form. I wasn't going to throw all those pictures out at you or at producer John, by the way, but needless to say, if you've been used to seeing them in a certain way for most of the year, a lot of these teams are changing their look up for this year, for this race.
They are.
I want to get back to Max Verstappen. I'm going to laud him after I ripped him. He's having a year of years. We know that. For example, 2 races left in this year. Verstappen has won almost all the races, save 2. Sunday in Brazil, 2 weeks ago, he won his 17th race of the year. That means his winning percentage this year can be no lower than 77.2%, which would best the previous record of 75% set by Alberto Ascari going back almost to the beginning of Formula One, 71 years ago. Verstappen says he's not looking at that. It's not really about the winning percentage, just noting that he feels good in the car, doesn't mind fighting for it as he's done most years of F1 when you win only 2 races in the year and the rest you're driving to be P5. I'm just enjoying the moment. But Red Bull's won 21 of the 22 races this year, so an even better winning percentage. But since we mentioned it, let's give you more detail. Verstappen so far has won 17 of the 22 races, and should he not win the next 2, he's guaranteed 77.2. But if he wins the next 2, that's 85% win rate. Again, besting the all-time record set in 1952 by Alberto Ascari. The next closest, Michael Schumacher, in 2004, won 72.2% of the races that year. Then Jim Clark in 1963, winning 70%. Sebastian Vettel won 68.4% in 2013, just ahead of Max Verstappen last year at 68.1%. So yeah, to say Max Verstappen is having a year of years, it's an understatement.
Yep.
So suck it up, Max. You're winning races. You're doing something you love. There are aspects of it that you don't like, and we're not asking you to. Suck it up, Buttercup, and enjoy the racing. We're off next weekend because of Thanksgiving. We'll detail it more on YouTube.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG.